Hello and a warm welcome to part 2 of our Zero to Hero series, the signatures. My name is Bianca and I'm so happy you're here. As mentioned, today we're looking at the signatures, how to create them and how to decorate them afterward. So we'll start by gathering and prepping our papers. For this journal, I'm focusing only on vintage papers. Of course, you can also coffee dye your pages or use colorful papers, but I'm sticking to pages from old books that I found at the flea market. And here I'm flipping through one of them. This is an old language learning dictionary, I think. You can see French, English, and Italian up there. And then, of course, the German literature history book. If you watched the cover video, you'll recognize it. I mentioned that I'd show you the inside in more detail, and that's what I'm doing now. You can already see it has these amazing inserts, old letters and old writings, printed on a different type of paper with a completely different texture. It's an absolutely beautiful book, and of course I tore out some pages from there, and also a few from a regular notebook and my Latin book. Basically, you can use anything you have. Then I folded all the pages in half so that we can sew them in later, and now we're simply stacking them together to form our paper bundle. And then we're just layering them on top of one another. And we'll repeat this for as many signatures as we want. I decided to make 3, and here I'm showing you the other 2. You already saw the first one in time-lapse, and I also used pages from an old music sheet book, some pages from my old Latin book, an old envelope, and pages from my plant encyclopedia. The one I've used many times before, so nothing new really, just old book pages. And here you can also see some Stamperia papers. These are from the vintage library set, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm using them to bring a bit of color into the whole thing, because right now everything is very vintage and very tone and tone. So here I'm choosing which page fits best for this blank page left, because I've decided I don't want any blank pages in this journal. And in the end, I settled with this one. And I always check whether it still looks harmonious when you flip one page forward and one page back. And here I really liked how it looked. So I placed the paper on top, fold it over the edge, and that marks my width. Then I simply tear it off along the edge, and then we have the correct width. Same thing for the height, place it down, and I mark it by pressing with my fingernail on the paper underneath so I don't accidentally crease the page underneath, and then repeat the same process. Now I want to glue this in as a pocket. That's why we only apply glue to 3 edges, the top, the side and the bottom. And then I place it right along the fold, flip it over and smooth it down. And just like that, we've covered our first blank page. Now I'm flipping through the signature again to see if there's another blank page, and of course the back side of the page we just decorated is also blank. I chose this paper for it and repeated the exact same process. Align it edge to edge, mark it, tear it down to size and glue it on. And this is what the first signature looks like for now. Now I'm taking a look at the second one. Here it is, and again there's a blank page, but the paper is extremely fragile and super thin, so it actually needs more stability, but still I decided against covering it because the thinness makes it look really cool. You can see the text from the other side shining through. Then here I found another white or blank page, the envelope, and I want to cover that one as well, and I chose the blue paper because on the front of the envelope you can still see the original handwritten ink, and it's blue too, so when you flip it over you get blue on blue, and I really like that kind of color harmony. Same process again, tear it to size, apply glue and stick it down, and I left the other side of the envelope blank for now. So I still had the remaining Stamperia papers I showed you earlier. So far I had only used 2 of them, and I thought, okay, how do I include the rest? I decided to simply cut them in half or tear off a piece to get the right size, and then use them as additional pages inside the signatures. And I did this with several of the Stamperia papers, and for the ones that were too small, especially the torn edges, I turned those directly into pockets, as you can see here. And these are the finished signatures. Now we're moving on to decorating. I recorded this part while crafting, so don't be surprised that the journal is already fully bound. This is a little jump into the future, because I personally prefer decorating when the pages are already sewn in, because nothing shifts around anymore and I just like working that way. But of course the tutorial on how to sew in the pages will come next week. So now let's jump into the decorating. I've already done a bit of prep work. I've made some ephemera pieces beforehand. For example, this one here, this is going to be a flip up element. Then I made this paper clip. I'll show it to you up close with these cute little gold beads on it. And here's a regular oil envelope where you can tuck things inside. Then here I have another journal card, basically a pocket with this beautiful fabric at the top. This one will probably just be a flap. I'll see if I extend it and maybe turn it into a belly band so you can tuck something behind it, because I think we already have 2 or 3 flaps in this journal, so I might attach something extra to this one. Then there's the endless tag we already know. This here is also meant to be a flap, which I'll glue down with some H tape, and then this transparent tag as well. So now I'm going to place all of these pieces inside the journal with you and let you be part of my thought process, why I put each element where I put it. Let's start with the paper clip. My thought here is that I want to place it on a page that's a bit sturdier. I do have some very thin pages here and it just wouldn't hold. You can clip it on, but it would tear at the first opportunity. So I'm focusing on these sturdier pages from the Stamperia set. Here I think that it doesn't fit as well. Then next I have this page that already looks better, but it kind of disappears visually. It doesn't really stand out nicely here. Then we have this blue page, and I actually don't think it looks bad there at all. But let's check if we can find an even better option. We still have this page, but that's similar to the ones before. It blends in a bit too much for my taste. This should be the last design paper from the Stamperia set, I think. And yeah, here there's already so much going on in the background, if you know what I mean. It wouldn't look bad, but somehow I like the best on the blue page. It stood out really nicely there and it worked well with the rest of the page. So that's where I'm going to put it. So what should we continue with? I'd say this piece right here. Again, I'm flipping through the pages to see where it fits best. And I'll probably attach it with another paper clip. So here it doesn't work because it's the same paper as the background and it would get lost. That page is too thin. Again, too much writing, same paper. And here it could work, but it still isn't it. And that's what I really like. Because it's always important to keep in mind that you also flip the pages before and after the ephemera too. For example, here, I don't like it at all because the black and white underneath stands out way too much. The contrast is just too harsh and the transition is too strong, so it doesn't blend in very nicely. That's completely different on this page. This is the same paper as here, but because the tag is placed behind it, you can only see the color underneath. So the 2 elements complement each other without blending together too much or disappearing into each other. Because it's not text over text, if you know what I mean. And yeah, these are the kind of thoughts I'm going through when placing things. And yeah, that's the place where I'm going to put it. I really like it there. So we need a paper clip, and what just came to my mind, we can clip it a little bit higher so that the lace can peek out over the edge. So yeah, we'll pin that down there, and with a brand new or just metal paper clips in general, I'm always careful when attaching them. I usually bend the tip outwards a bit so it doesn't scratch the paper because they can sometimes be quite sharp. I always pay attention to that. And now I don't like how the paper clip is hanging over this black and white area here, so I'm sliding it up a little bit more. That looks better in my opinion. So then we've placed that card, and let's continue with this flap. I don't like it here. I'm also not a fan of this because the page is kind of pink beige and a coffee yellow H tone, and I don't really like how it looks with that page. That's too much text for me here. And then that wouldn't be the worst place, but it bothers me that it would cover up this little label, and I don't want that. So let's move to the last signature, and that place here could actually work. With that underneath, you'd get an extra layer when you flip it, and that looks really nice. Here it doesn't fit as well, and yeah, so the best spot is definitely this one, so let's place it here. And I have to say, I almost never find multiple good spots for an ephemera piece. From my experience with junk journal crafting, there's usually one perfect spot for each ephemera. The one place where it feels just right. And nowhere else works quite as well. Maybe that's just me, I don't know, but whenever I go through a journal, I just have to keep flipping pages until that one perfect spot appears. And once I find it, I don't want to place the ephemera anywhere else. You saw it in comparison now. In my opinion, for this ephemera piece here, that page was simply just the best match, right? There really wasn't any other spot that could compete with it. The ephemera basically spoke. It wanted to live right there. So moving on, the envelope. I'm not entirely sure yet how I want to place it because it's so big and I can't glue it onto a page as it is because it wouldn't fit. My original idea was to glue it down completely so the whole thing would sit flat on a page, but that doesn't work with the size. So it will probably end up being another flip element. And since I didn't bind it into the signature directly, it'll likely become something that I clip or tuck somewhere. And I came up with a cool idea. Because I left pockets everywhere using the Stamperia papers, I could use these as a tuck spot. So maybe it could fit into one of those pockets? And yes, it does. It's not a perfect fit, but it does fit. The problem now is that the side wouldn't be decorated and I don't really want to decorate both sides of it either. So the solution, we simply fold it over. So now we're looking for a spot where we can put it like that. But again, only the pages that we fully covered with the Stamperia paper will work. So that page is one of the Stamperia pages, but the problem is that it's covered with the card and I clipped it with the paper clip completely. So it wouldn't fit in there. But the problem now is that I don't like that. I don't like that the paper clip covered the whole pocket. So I'll go back to that page because it broke my whole thought process and I had to change that. So, and the solution is, because we create solutions, not problem, that we'll just pin it onto one side. That way it doesn't matter if the inside gets a little scratch because you won't see that anyway. So it's even better. Then we don't have to worry about moving or removing the paper clip. So that's a good solution, but that doesn't mean that I like this particular page for the envelope. So one problem solved, one problem kept. So I flip through the journal again and I actually like it on that page. We also have a pocket there and when you flip it over, it already looks pretty good because it's a neutral background and there's no color or pattern that clashes. So we'll put it in there. And it even almost fits completely. Not quite, but that doesn't matter. A little bit sticking out actually looks nice because you have these fan-like effect. And then you can just flip it up. That's perfect. So, next item, this lace flap. So this page is too fragile and I think I won't decorate it at all. It'll just be for flipping through and a different texture for paper lovers. Then that one is too light. The piece wouldn't stand out. Again, it doesn't stand out. Then that wouldn't be as bad, but we already have the lace there and I don't want too much lace on one spot. So I came to this spot and I really like it there. That looks cool and we'll just trim it a bit shorter so it fits nicely. And the lace from the cover is glued down anyway and I actually like how it looks next to it. So it also stands a bit out too. And you can see it here in comparison to the other pages. It really pops on that one. Here you can see the different, it doesn't pop as much. It still looks good, but you can see the difference, right? So we'll put it here. I've trimmed it to the right size and then I'm applying some glue at the top and then we'll just stick it on. So that's in place. Then I tore off a little piece of baking paper to cover the glue so we can keep working without sticking to everything. So we'll continue with this belly band. Again, I'm flipping through from the beginning. You can already see it doesn't fit here. So we keep flipping and we'll skip a good chunk toward the back. So here it would match a bit better with the blue, but it's still not the right place. So sometimes it's very obvious when something doesn't fit. That's not good too, because it's the same background, so it kind of disappears. And I don't quite know where to put it, so I flip through a bit off camera and that's the spot. Here it works really well for me, especially because it reminds me a bit of a plant, the screen thingy, and it echoes the botanical feeling of the page underneath nicely. And what I was thinking is that you can tuck this page behind the belly band if you want, or you can leave it on top, though I don't think that looks as nice. So I'm going to glue it down there. And now you can simply slide the page underneath. And I really like that. That works well. But we still have to cover these pages in the back. They're not finished yet, so this is what it looks like after that. And here I accidentally cut too far and sliced into the page underneath, and I just put a piece of tape over it, aged it, and now it's repaired again. So we have two pieces left, the pocket and this tag. So let's take care of those, and I'll start with this one. In the back section of the journal, we already have lace here and lace on this lady page. So I want to find a spot for this one in the front part of the journal, because I don't like having lace right next to lace when everything else is so close together. So I'm flipping a few pages forward, and here it would actually look nice, but that page is too thin. And as I already mentioned, I didn't plan to glue it down, and I wanted to leave it as it is, as a double pocket. So how do we solve that? The other parts, or the other spots, again, yeah, it's sometimes it's white and white, sometimes it doesn't stand out, it doesn't fit in the pocket right there. So the thin paper is really the spot for this card. So the only question now is, how do we make it work? Using a paper clip is impossible. The moment you take it off the first time, the page will tear because it's so delicate. Then I thought maybe we could glue it down, and then you can also see the page from underneath. That would actually look cool, but I didn't want to glue it down, so I decided to tape it down as a flip out. But you can see the page is too delicate, it's too thin. And I knew that, but it was the spot where the card has to go. So now we just need to find a solution for this issue, and we'll fix it by reinforcing the page from the back. Let's see what we can find. I still have this cardstock piece left, but I don't like that. So I'll just have to think about it. For now, I'll leave it as it is. As long as I'm careful, nothing will happen. I mean, I know it's fragile, but long term, I will definitely have to cover the back of the page. I have to reinforce it, because otherwise it's going to tear eventually. But for now, this is where the card belongs, and I do love it on this page. So for the last piece, the endless tag, we still need a spot. I'm having a bit of a hard time with this tag at the moment because it's so very green. And I feel like I don't have enough color connection for that shade of green inside the journal yet. I mean, sure, the cover is made from it. There is a little bit here and there, but inside I haven't created enough links to that green color for it to blend in well. So right now the tag would work nicely on any neutral page, and especially together with the music notes, it's gorgeous. But flipping from that blue page here directly onto the strong green, I don't like that transition, because I haven't created any color connection for that green anywhere else in the surrounding pages. So I'm going to leave the placement of this tag as a little surprise for you in the flip through. And in the flip through, you'll also see the fully decorated journal, because what you've seen here are just the pieces I had already prepared, mainly to show you my process, how I distribute my ephemera, and why I place each piece where I do. And this little treasure is far from fully decorated. I want it to be absolutely packed in the end, so there is still a lot of work ahead of me. All these pockets are still empty and undecorated, and I'll probably add lots and lots of lace as well. But I'll be doing all of that off camera, because you've now had a glimpse into my thought process, and that's exactly how I'll continue with the rest of the decorating. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and that it was interesting to take a peek into someone else's mind, to see how and why they decorate the way they do. So I hope you had fun, and I'm looking forward to next week when we'll be sewing the pages in. Till then, have a good time and see you next week. Bye bye.